All right, Tom, we're live with Tom Ferry, number one coach in the world for real estate. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, Matt. Thanks for having me on your show.
Man, it's an absolute honor to have you on my show. Been watching you for years. Obviously, been coached by you and your team for a few years now. So to have you on my Level 10 Conversations is a ton of fun. So been looking forward to this. Know you're a busy man, so I want to honor your time. So we're going to jump right in here. But real quick, just as a couple people log on, how's the golf game, man? I haven't played golf with you yet. So how's it looking?
Thank you. I was trending towards getting to a 10 on my index. I would say that based upon, I probably played 3 or 4 rounds since COVID. And I think my new index might be 15. So the good news is, I guess it's going to be better for my betting. How about that?
There you go. Short game's the first to go always, but
Totally.
cool. Well, let me introduce you, Tom. So Tom Ferry, for those of you watching this, many of you know who Tom is. You've heard me talk a lot about Tom and his organization. Tom is legitimately the number one real estate coach in the world and has been for many years in a row. Best-selling New York Times best-selling author. I think I looked at it last night, Tom, a few 100,000 subscribers to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Put out a lot of incredible content. Even if you're not in real estate, just listening to Tom's business principles, business building principles, mindsets, just entrepreneurial mind, anything. Tom, you're just a huge asset to so many people. So it's an honor. And I guess let me sum it up this way. In honor of The Last Dance, and I'm a huge Bulls and Jordan fan, You're like the Phil Jackson of real estate, man, right?
Dude, I'll take that and just for the record, so I was named number one coach in North America, but I do have we have clients all over the world, but you got to lead me. I got to have that goal. I got to keep striving to.
Hey, I'm a realtor. You want to hear me describe a strip view in Las Vegas? I'm a realtor. So if you can see the stratosphere needle, you got a strip view in Vegas. So
absolutely.
But Tom, you're what I would call, I've told you this before, but in my life, there's only a couple who I would consider level 5 leaders, as John Maxwell describes it. You're one of those, brother. So I know you understand what that means when I say that, but truly a leader who develops other leaders. And that's exactly what you do better than anybody I know. So first question I have for you, Tom, is I would be remiss to not ask you on Level 10 Conversations, which is a spinoff of my Real Life at Level 10 series.
Yeah.
For somebody who says level 10 all the time, your slogan you use a lot is level 10, no apologies.
Yep.
What does that mean when you say that?
So the origin story of that, I was writing, I'd finished my second book called Life by Design. And it was a pivotal moment in my life. I was landing in New York City after taking a red eye. My writing partner is very famous, has written something like 55 books. At that point, I think it was like 40, and all had been New York Times bestsellers. And probably like anybody else, I just was in a massive state of doubt. And, oh my goodness, kind of as a skier, have I gone too far over my skis? Like, is this the right move? I was actually doubting a lot of the work. And even though I had that day 5 meetings with, the biggest publishing companies in New York City, and they were all excited. And every one of them said, we want to bid on your book. Like it was actually like taking a great listing and lots of buyers wanted. I was in that situation, but I was in a state of doubt. And I called at that time a woman that I had worked with as she was coaching me. I was coaching her. It was one of these very mutual business sort of relationships. And I said to her, I'm just feeling nervous. And she was like, listen to me. She says, I want you to walk into every one of those meetings at level 10. And now I'd heard that phrase a million times before, but there was something about that moment when she said, I want you to walk in those meetings at level 10 with no apologies. You're Tom Ferry. You've earned this. Go be that guy. And I was just like, it struck me like the sort of metaphorical lightning bolt, if you will, that, whether it's the religious moment of, oh, I got it, or that business moment of certainty. And the fascinating part is in the book, I never actually talked about level 10, but every talk I gave, 300 radio interviews, I didn't even remember how many, book tour, events that I had done. It was a gazillion. And every one of them, what I talked about was being at level 10. being your very best. It's you versus you. It's not you versus your neighbor. It's not you versus the other business in your town. On your gravestone, I wanted to say that the dash of your life, you gave it everything you had. And that's what she instilled in me that day. Like, it was just, I mean, as I talk about it right now, I got like truth bumps. I mean, it's the reminder that life is really short.
Right.
Life is really short. And a lot of people take the dash, again, if you've never read that poem, the day you're born, the day you pass, they take that dash and they just waste it. And I've never been one to want to do that. But that moment for me was, you know what? Life is short. Mentors of mine have passed away. Family members have passed away. One of my best friends on the planet committed suicide when I was 15. And you start to look at the experiences of life and you do realize, in this giant universe on this huge planet with 7.5 billion people, I'm just one dude. But that one dude, if he cleans his own room, cleans his own house, cleans up his own street, maybe cleans up his own city, could maybe become the number one coach in the US and then maybe in the world, right? That's level 10 for me.
I love it. And the no apologies. Of course, I've worn the shirt and the hat, and my kids would ask me, but I use that opportunity to speak to my son specifically about the no apologies, meaning that it's not a disregard for what people, how they feel. It's not a disrespect to them. It's just their opinion of you does not define who you are.
Yeah.
So, be you with no apologies, not a disrespect or disregard, but there's a difference there. So I love it, man.
But I will tell you, I talked about Michael Jordan earlier, like, on the battlefield, it's okay to be like, hey, I'm going to disrespect. You look at like I got Kelsey over here and we're just talking about the late Kobe Bryant, who, I got, pretty close to before he passed. And he was ruthless until he didn't need to be. He got off the battlefield and he was a dad and he was, he was a husband and he was, a cool, cool guy in the gym. So, the thing I want to stress about the no apologies, what it really is about is not buying into the opinions of other people, not letting the opinions of others dictate your path. That's really what it's about. Because, look at the world we're in today. Say the wrong thing and you can get fired, right? Do the wrong thing and you can get fired, right? I mean, it's a challenging time, right? But again, it's about knowing who you are. It's about understanding your values. And it's not about trying to hurt anybody. That's not, certainly not the way I roll. But I'm not going to let the opinion of someone I don't know, right, send me a tweet or say something and buy into it, alter my vision for my life. You with me? I'm not trying to do anything to hurt anybody. I'm trying to be the best me I can be. But that does upset people.
Sure. No, I love it. Totally agree with you. So let's talk leadership for a minute, Tom. Leaders, I'm sure you would agree with me. Leaders are not, we're coming out of a crisis. Praise God, we're coming out of a crisis, I believe, with COVID, not heading back into it again, we sure hope. But leaders are not created in crisis. Amongst popular belief, they're created. I don't believe that's the case. I think leaders might be forged during crisis. Leaders lead. Yeah. What have you learned about leadership over these last few months? Because it's been something that in your career you've never experienced before. So what have you learned as a leader?
I go back to one of my great mentors who you've heard me talk about, a guy named Mike Vance, who was like the last 9 years of Walt Disney's life. He was his right hand. He launched Orlando. He was the first dean of the Disney University. A lot of the things we still love about Disney today, he had his hands on. And then he mentored a guy named Jack Welch, who we all, God bless him, passed away, right? And then he mentored Steve Jobs all the way up until the day that Steve really passed away. And then they just were friends. And to counteract, imagine when he mentored me, we would talk, and then the next day he talked to Jack Welch, and the next day he talked to Steve Jobs, and then at least every 90 days he talked to Mother Teresa, right, who he was super close to. So this man had extraordinary perspective. And I joke, I remember being with him in Miami one day, and we were at, I forget the Chart House restaurant or something, and there was a salad bar, and I said, "Didn't you invent this?" And he said, "Yeah, you're welcome." Like, invented the salad bar. Like, think about that. Like, he said, Walt Disney called him the most creative man on the planet. And my point to you is this. He said to me regarding leadership, look, you can read a lot of books, you can study a lot, you can do all that stuff. But basically, until you get punched in the face several times, like, That's what he said. It's hard, Tom, to learn from experiences you're not having. Right. So when I reflect back on my life as a leader, I mean, for me, it started when I was 6 years old. My mom was sitting on the bed. I remember as clear as day. We're on Chaucer Lane in Huntington Beach, California. My older brother, Matthew, who you know, was standing across from me. And my mom hung up the phone and said, your dad and I are getting a divorce. Your dad's leaving us. And I remember as clear as day. And I watched my older brother start to cry. And I said, I'll help. Right now, I don't know. I was talking with my mom about it. She's like, I remember that as clear as day. She's like, all right, you get the crock pot and throw the beanie weenies in and, like typical, mid-70s life. But I knew even then that like, I didn't know how to lead. I just put myself into it, right? Then you make all the mistakes and you hire the wrong people and you say the wrong thing and you do the wrong thing and you make the wrong, but all of that makes up the fabric of who you become as a leader. So during COVID, I don't want to say it was easy, but I did have the unfair advantage that my COO at the time was a dear friend. She was born and raised in Beijing. So we were watching in December. We were watching in January. We were watching in February. And, one of my closest friends runs basically 25,000 agents in Europe. So we were seeing it hitting Europe and we're like, it's coming, right? It's going to hit us. So we immediately were like, okay, how do we need to adjust? First and foremost, safety. Secondly, how do we keep the business moving forward, which means how do we keep our clients moving forward? How do we keep our team safe? And then how do we make sure that we innovate during this time? Because the world's going to shift. And you saw it. I lived through it. It was the digital transformation of our work and home life.
Oh, yeah.
10 million people on Zoom. And 2 weeks later, 200 million people were on Zoom. Right. So I think, what not my words, but what great leaders do is they see things as they are. They don't make them better. They don't go Pollyanna, but they also don't make them worse than they are, right? They don't make them worse. When you're communicating, it's like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's what's happening. Here's what we're going to do about it. You don't say, oh, it doesn't exist. COVID, right. Oh, don't worry about it. We're safe here in Vegas. And you also don't say the whole world's over. We're all going to die, right? Leaders have that tendency to keep things very calm. And that was only from experience of making the mistakes and panicking in the moment.
I feel like you just described being a lion versus a sheep, right? Just like you were telling all us for a few weeks.
Right. That was I was trying to give you guys early visual metaphors, right? Which is a powerful way for, when you're trying to communicate to, millions of people, like imagine lion versus sheep. Which one are you going to be? Right. The lioness protects. The lioness goes out and hunts. Right? She takes care of her business. He takes care of his business. The sheep, you make a little noise and they're running like crazy. We can't be that. Not as leaders, not as husbands, not as wives, not as children, as family members, as business people. We got to lead.
Love it, man. So talking about, the transition that we had to go through, a pivot most of us had to do in our business. You coined the phrase largely with the program you guys rolled out.
Yeah.
So from an outsider's perspective, you took this pivot program, and from an outsider's perspective, it went from 0 to 100 overnight.
In
so
6 days.
Say that? 6 days?
6 days. We did it in 6 days.
How do you pull that off in 6 days? And then I would love to hear your perspective of the results or outcome from that.
So for the people that don't have context, I have 185 business coaches in about 7 different countries that do the vast majority of our work. So I'm surrounded by very talented people and a lot of resources to say, hey, what do you all think? Right. So that's an important element. I don't make decisions or drive, results and behavior in a silo. I get opinions, I listen, I get feedback. Then internally, I'm blessed. I have an amazing executive team and management team, sales and ops and engineering. And I said, okay, the world's in crisis. We don't have to be. Our job, and I remember, just if I walked in over there where my office is, it says, I lost my chips too. We are in business to help professionals achieve their greatness, and we hold them accountable to those standards. That's what we do as a business. So I said, okay, we just have to do it this way. And I literally you just take all the projects that are on the shelf, everything that everybody's working on. And I basically said, none of that matters. Stop. Everybody focus on this. We're going to do, the original vision was we're going to do 2 trainings a week. We'll invite all of our clients to come on, and we'll talk about the digital transformation. We'll talk about how do you market message during these times, and let's keep our clients moving forward. And we'll do some mindset stuff because they're gonna struggle. We'll do some technology stuff because they need to learn it. And we in 6 days we put it together, and then we announced it. And I think for the first 7 or 8 weeks, we did 5 shows a week. We promised 2. And we did 5 because we also recognized, and I think everybody knows this, that when you're in a situation like this, you got to provide a lot of value, right? And you have to also recognize that everybody's in a different place in their life. And in my case, they're in a different place of their business, where because you're running this wildly successful team, you've got a set of challenges that are different from, the woman that I'm coaching who's in New York City, who has 2 small children, and she's single, and she's a solo agent. She's got different issues. So we just said, we got to try and cover the full spectrum of issues to move everybody forward.
Right.
So that's, maybe just, from a business standpoint, but you can't be all things to all people. I do, though, believe fundamentally business is about delivering more value than it's expected. And it's also understanding what are your clients' pain points, and can you deliver on them? Can you help them? And if you can't, can you bring it, as you saw me do, bring in outside perspective, right? Outside experts to say, let's talk about mindset with Jim Quick, or let's bring in Dr. Daniel Amen and talk about, the mental side, the brain side of all this stress and what we can do, or Pam, our nutritionist. You start to pull in all these resources because at the end of the day, business is delivering value. That's what it's all about.
No doubt about it. More value than people expect, or more value than they feel like they're paying for, right? So love it. Let's talk perspective, Tom. So right now, a mentor of mine, great friend of mine, was on this same conversation a couple of weeks ago and shared that this pandemic we've been walking through is really almost like a hard reset on your iPhone. It's like a chance to reboot, where we really have a chance to get a fresh perspective, from an eagle eye view, if you will, on our rhythms and routines. What's most important to us? Is our day ordered around the things most important to us, or is it just included into our day?
Yeah.
How has your perspective been challenged or changed in the last few months? And then a follow-up to that is, what are you learning about yourself right now?
It's interesting. So my wife and I were literally in this conversation this morning. I'll be married 27 years in October, and I've married my wife 3 times and never got divorced. I just find that if you just keep romancing all the time, it makes it better and last longer, just in my experience. But we're in this dialogue, and she said to me very candidly, she's like, "Baby, you need to take a break." And I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right." She's like, No, listen to me. I love you. You need to take a break." Because what she knows about me is I have a tendency to thrive in chaos. That sort of the bigger the problem, the more excited I get. And I don't know if that's just because of 35,000 hours of coaching experience and starting multiple companies and consulting for companies that have gone public or have fallen apart and died and everything under the sun. So what I've really learned is, like, I do operate best under that kind of pressure. But what I also understand is I will run myself at times to exhaustion, and then I'm good for no one. I'm not good for me. I'm not good for my team. I'm not good for my 2 sons that are 19, and one turns 21 on Monday, right? And my lovely wife, and my mother-in-law is 93 that lives with me. That it's that constant realization that we, right? Because you live in the same as I do, we're bucket fillers. Like, we're constantly filling up everybody else's bucket. That's what leaders do, sort of metaphorically. We're the gas station. They come in, Matt, and we're like, okay, get back out there. You're ready to go. But if you don't stop and fill up your own bucket, that's where you get in trouble, right? And I saying to my wife, I didn't work out this morning, and I feel horrible. And it's Friday, and I want to finish, today strong. And that, even just that, admitting that bugs me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I think it's that realization, and this will pass, because I can remember when 9/11 happened, and everyone said no one's going to live in the downtown financial district, and everybody's going to leave, and I was working with agents that were all over the world, and no one was going to fly. Remember, no one was going to fly ever. But as a society, as a race, as humans, we do move through things.
Sure.
We do move through things, and the pandemic side will end. And when it does, right, the question I have is, can I maintain the intensity? You with me?
Yeah.
Because I like the intensity. I like the challenge. You with me?
Yeah.
I know that's probably horrible because it's a massive issue in my own head.
You're making me think of Jim Rohn. I love Jim Rohn's teachings, but he talks about God's creation in Genesis.
Yeah.
What's a bigger project than creating the world? But 6 days labor, 1 day rest, right? Jim Rohn, it's simple. So why do we try and reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
All right, another question for you. This is right up your alley, Tom. We are moving out of this season, thankfully. So now it's time to start talking about getting into action.
Yeah.
What would you say to people right now on some quick tips on how do we get into action when so many people maybe have slipped into comfort, a little bit of, just relaxation? How do we get into action?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I was talking to, people in housing, real estate agents, escrow, title, mortgage, or any entrepreneur, because I talk to so many, friends of mine that are either in software or, I'm part of a spirits company, right? Like, even then, like, remember here we have this incredible spirits company, but all the bars are closed. Everything is, what do you do, right? And now things are slowly opening up, and I'm having to reactivate with my partner that sales team that, hey, it's time to get back out there. So it's always the same. You ready? It's also almost the end of the first half of the year. This is the time when we got to stop and pause and say, okay, what happened in the first 6 months, right? There was your life before COVID, BC, there was DC during COVID, and now there's today. So what lessons did you learn in the last 6 months? Just get present to it. Don't beat yourself up. Don't overinflate yourself. Just what happened? And then here's the $64,000 question, as the old game show goes. What are you committed to between now and the end of the year? And, Matt, I do a show that goes out every week. I think it's the 2 weeks from now. I'll do essentially that. Let's break down what happened, and then let's decide what you want to do going forward. And, for my friends that are in the real estate space, let me remind you, if you're living in the US, we're about to have a pretty tumultuous presidential election. You basically, if you're in sales, right, in real estate or in mortgage, maybe mortgage a little bit less, but still, you got June through around October 15th. And then traditionally, not so much in Vegas because of the seasonality of your market and similar to mine, but most of the country has anywhere between a 9 to 18% drop in real estate transactions because of the non-seasonality, right? The cold season, et cetera, right? Not Florida, not Vegas, not Arizona, right, et cetera. We know it's even better there. But we're going to have a slowdown, and there's going to be a lot of anger and upset and excitement and psychological torment. It's kind of the last, couple of weeks of October into the election. So I'm telling a lot of my clients, get everything done between now and October, right? That, like, literally you might need to go back to your spouse or your kids or your team and say, I got July, August, September, October, 4 months. I'm going to do more in 4 months than I did the previous 6, because it's a moment in time. It's a window that if you're in business, you see the demand. Again, I know we're talking specifically real estate here. The demand right now is incredible. Now, I know in Vegas, it's different because of unemployment, but we also now are going to see, because who's coming back? It's the hotels, it's the restaurants, it's the bars. And that's a big factor for, cities like Vegas.
And
right?
all of your neighbors are moving to Vegas.
and California is talking about adding all kinds of fun new taxes associated to COVID. So yeah, guess what? We've already seen the exodus over the last 2 decades. Talking with my clients in Texas, I'm like, they're coming. get ready. So, I guess the simple answer is, go home today, grab a dry erase pen, and on your bathroom mirror, write down the 5 or 6 things that are an absolute must achieve for you between now and October 15th. And then if you're married like me, I always go and say, hey, baby, this is what I'm committed to. And I kind of give her like the pinky promise, like, I need some permission to really get after this because we got a 4-month window here. And, we make that agreement, and same thing with my boys. And, like, that's what you got to do, because it's a short amount of time and you got to hit it hard.
Got it. Love it. All right. Last question. Then I got a quick rapid fire for you after this. So You know that my team in Vegas, Tom, we're all in on client experience. Super passionate about it. You talk about the experience economy, and that's the first time I heard that term is when you shared it probably a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Speak to that for just a moment, and then also, what do you see the buyer and seller of the future? What are their demands? What do they expect? What in light of that experience economy?
And you want me to do that in 3 minutes or less? Oh man. All right. So the first thing I would tell everybody is to Google the phrase omotenashi. Omotenashi is the Japanese phrase for exceptional client experience. And if you've not been to Japan, I have so much respect for their culture, the precision, the organization, the process, the beauty, the artistry, but it's all very intentional, Matt. It's very intentional. And I know you as a business person have that same belief. So the experience economy was actually a book written several years ago where the author basically said, look, a coffee bean has a certain economic value. But if I take that coffee bean and I put it into my house where I can blend it, that has another value. But if I take it and I put it at Dunkin' Donuts, that has another value. But somehow if I put it in a Starbucks cup, it almost has an exponential value. You know, the actual cost of coffee is pennies, but I gladly pay $4.90 for a triple maca laka wakalula at Starbucks. So I think part of that is the experience that consumers expect because we're so used to that now, right? We're used to exceptional experience. But here's the second part. Think about Amazon, right? What Amazon has done, and this is to me the future of real estate transactions, is they've removed all the friction from the process. I believe in the next 3 to 4 years, you'll buy a house or you'll begin negotiating, your agent will give you an app or there'll just be a universal app and I'll literally go on the app and no different from when I go Uber and I see who my driver is, what they're all about. I can call them, I can cancel it, right? I can say, I want the air on, I want the music playing, I don't want you to talk to me, I want to have a conversation, you and Uber. Like you can set all these settings. I think a real estate transaction is going to look a little more like that. And Matt, you know, when you actually open up an escrow, and now the client has there's just all this uncertainty. What's going to happen next? How do I do it? What do I need to do? And then all of a sudden the mortgage person calls and says, I need all this up really fast. And everybody's sort of on pins and needles. I think the future is all going to be inside an app and it's going to look a whole lot like the map of Google. And it's going to be earmarking all the things that the buyer and seller need to do to have an effortless transaction, right? It's all about removing friction. It's all about making it easier. And listen, Asia, automation, and AI, I think are going to make a major play there. And Asia meaning outsourcing, you with me? That we can outsource some of the mundane. We can use automation to make the process easier and more natural. And then hopefully we can use AI that is getting ahead of the concerns or the worries or the questions or the fact that the agent didn't follow up or the loan officer didn't reach out in a timely manner. It's all about making it better for the customer. That's the whole game. So, totally. I mean, I could talk for about 7.5 days on that subject in terms of more detail, but, and I don't think we're that far off.
No, I don't either. And I can talk all day about that too. So I love it. Thanks for sharing. All right, rapid fire. What is your favorite restaurant in Las Vegas?
My dad's house. Seriously.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. Best or favorite round of golf you've ever played?
My own club championship. I shot 89, which was horrible. And I lost I wasn't in the championship, but it was the club championship. And I got my first and only hole-in-one. And unlike most clubs where you get a set of shoes and everybody buys you a drink, if you get a hole-in-one at my club, you have to buy everyone drinks. Yeah. So it was a very memorable and expensive experience.
So my one and only hole-in-one, by the way, is hole 17 at Pebble Beach.
Oh,
not a bad place to get one. Okay, I want to honor your time.
Okay, hold on. I got to tell you the other one then, because just golf. Ready? I'm on St. Andrews, right? Hole number 1. I'm with 3 of my closest friends, and I'd never been there before. It was totally magical. And I said, you know what? I got to FaceTime my dad right now because he's the one that helped us set up the trip. He knows all the peeps, right? So I FaceTime him, Matt, and I literally go, hey, Dad. I go, look where I'm at. And I show him, right? And he goes, hey, look where I'm at. He's at Augusta National. Oh. And we both parred number 13, if you know what that means, at Augusta National and at the old course. That actually is an even better experience.
Oh, wow. Living the life. But Augusta and St. Andrews, same time. That's not a bad family
They
life.
boys, yes.
Do you miss selling real estate personally? It's the last question. Do you miss the daily grind? No?
I have so much grind in what I do. Like I'm doing I got very clear. Coaching, creating, connecting, and contributing. That's what I'm best at. And I've aligned my entire life and career around doing those 4 things.
Love it. All right. So, Tom, best way for people to follow you, we're going to throw up your Instagram handle and your YouTube channel. Anything else that you'd recommend?
No, I mean, if you Google me, if you Google me, you'll find me. I promise. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time and been digital since YouTube 2007, Instagram when it opened 2011, 12, Facebook way back in the day. So put it this way, I had a MySpace account. I'll just go with that. Or Luga, which none of you know about. And I was even on Friendster.
We won't throw up MySpace, and I'm sure we'll find you on TikTok soon enough. But and guys, get Tom's book. He's got 2 incredible bestseller books, so you can find those on any platform except they're sold out on your website. I saw Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever. So you guys, we'll put those in the comments as well. But Tom, man, thanks for doing this. I appreciate your time. And for everybody watching, this is a spinoff of Real Life at Level 10, where we discuss insights of leadership, real estate, and personal growth. I'm sure you got a ton of value from Tom, so please comment, share this content, subscribe to the podcast, and we'll look forward to continue trying to bring you guys value as consistently as we can. So we'll sign off for now. Tom, thanks again.
Thanks, brother. I'm going right to a coaching session, so text me later.
You got it, bro. Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Take care, guys.